Beware, beware. Sweet Baby Inc. detected. Boy, that's an awful name, isn't it? It just feels so wrong. Especially when you look at what the company does and how they rewrite games and how much influence they have on some big titles. Big titles that should have been good. Big titles that should have been at least decent. But no. It gets far worse than that. You would think that a company like Sweet Baby Inc. that deals in diversity, inclusion, and equity and really will do something interesting. They'll be pretty mild when it comes to the interesting meter. Like, they'll do something interesting, but it won't be something that bad. Except when you look at it, more and more things start coming up, don't they? And it's very, very bad. Because you see, we're not only talking about sensitivity writers changing everything. Apparently, Spider-Man was supposed to end with, Peter Parker and Mary Jane happily married. Yay, a good ending for Spider-Man. Sort of. Until they brought in Miles Morales. But that's a different story. The first really big, egregious thing coming from Sweet Baby Inc. is the fact that some of their employees really hate that group, okay? People don't like it when you post their own things in front of them and you show the world what they've done. It's a reason why libs of TikTok is so hated. And to go from this to just basically asking, report the group, report the person that made this thing, report everything. Well, you're proving that there's something there that you don't want people to see. And when you look at some of the games they've worked on, it's pretty obvious. You have Arkham Knights, which, whatever. Then you get things that are very interesting, much like, for example, Suicide Squad, God of War Ragnarok, Goodbye Volcano High, which in truth, that was a game that was going to be filled with diversity, inclusion, and equity because of the people that made it in the first place. It was a no-brainer that at least that one will be touched. But I thought that one will be touched by the creator and not by Sweet Baby Inc. God, that's such a bad name. God, I hate that name. That name feels so wrong. Anyway, the creepiness of the name aside, the group Sweet Baby Inc. detected is getting more interesting. For you see, rather than just accept that there are people that don't want your work out there, they've sent apparently people, this is just a speculation of mine, I'm not really sure of it, but it's clear that something is up because the group now has weird things in it. And when I see weird things in it, post like this: if you are against Sweet Baby Inc., you are a racist. Sweet Baby Inc. is a narrative development and consultation studio based in Montreal. Of course it is. And working around the globe. Our mission is to tell better and more empathic stories while diversifying and enriching the video games industry. Yeah, that sounds very good, doesn't it? SBI is only dedicated in the story part of the game. They don't work on the gameplay. So my question for the anti-SBI people is, why you think SBI ruins games? Isn't gameplay the important part of a game after all? The truth is you hate SBI only because they added diverse characters, POCs, non-binary, etc. Anything else is just a cheap excuse. Your curator list is as racist as if you made a list of all games with black people in it. This group is against Steam rules and should be taken down. Hopefully the moderation acts quickly. Now, this is a funny post. We can all agree this is pretty dumb and pretty funny in its own right. It's interesting how leftists always memory hole certain things. For example, the guy from Domina having schizo posts and everybody's just dunking on him to the point where I think they removed the game from Steam or something, or he just stopped updating it or whatever. But that wonderful post about how you're racist for being in this group or agreeing with it or not buying Sweet Baby in games is pretty much not the only one. Here's another interesting one. Sweet Baby Inc. makes the world a better place. And with the quality of games we have nowadays, that's obviously a lie. That's obviously a lie, a big one. Sweet Baby is one of the many companies that makes that make the world a better place by shaping and changing the narratives in video games media to make it more true to life and unproblematic. Remember, games used to be good when there were like 5 friends working on them at the same time. That was the good days. What we live now is the bad days. You guys are acting like representation is a bad thing. It is. Minorities and women deserve a place in video game narratives too. To a degree, I agree with that. Because we live in a diverse world after all. And you just have to suck it up, Buttercup. We're here to stay. God, that sounds so bad. Like, I have no problem with having black people or women in games. That's the funny thing. You had Final Fantasy VII that had your companions be pretty cool despite them being eco-terrorists. It just happens. Sometimes you inadvertently become an eco-terrorist and do more damage than you thought the company you were fighting for does. It's normal when you deal with the ecologist slur. But moving on. I know I'm talking about things that people never did because they never got to this too. So where was I? We want the girls and the boys of the world, no matter what color, to be inspired by the stories that are presented via video games. The companies that make these games hire Sweet Baby because they know that there is something missing in their story narrative, something that feels not quite right, be it no diversity or misogynistic writing. Yeah, that's a funny one. That's always a funny one. Oh, they hire us because they know they need us, not because ESG is a thing and you're a pretty good tax write-off, aren't you? You hope make more of that ESG money while losing some of that customer money. Huh? Anyway, let's move on. I'm glad this company exists because it serves a great duty in correcting the subtle, or not so subtle, immoral, racist or misogynistic stories. Yeah, that's what I think an Elric game will never be able to come out. Elric will suffer from these accusations, and it will be totally changed. There is no two ways about it. This doesn't just go for video games either. There are other companies that help with shaping the narrative in other types of media, and they are just as bad, and we should avoid those too. Stories are important. People take inspiration from them and they stick in the minds of many, be it subconsciously or consciously. It is the duty of companies like Sweet Baby, God I hate that name, to make sure the children of today grow up surrounded by the correct narratives, more closely resembling the real world by being inclusive and diverse, so that they become good and loving adults of tomorrow. If you disagree, you simply have no heart. From reading all of these posts and comments, it's clear you have a certain red hat proudly hanging in your wardrobe. The red hat accusations. Those are like the best accusations, especially when you're not American. When the group was made by somebody from Latin America, I think the guy that made the whole group is from Brazil, so that doesn't really work. And it doesn't really work when you look at the bigger communities, especially like curator groups like this one. Because you will always deal with people that are not from a certain country. And that's the funny thing. We can agree from around the world that something sucks and should not be invested in. It's funny how this torrent of thing just comes because you show to the world, hey, here's what this company worked on. And they're kind of responsible for the bad writing in all these video games. And there's probably more. There's always more that we don't know. People like to use the whole, it's stupidity, not malice argument. You know, Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. The problem is that nobody really realizes that they can be both stupid and evil at the same time. And that's what Sweet Baby Inc. really is doing right now. Stupid tactics while maliciously destroying story and narrative in certain video games. And of course, there's always more we won't know yet. But you know what? For now, I think this is a good insight. I think this is a good insight into what we're dealing with. And hopefully, things will change for the better. Hopefully. Apparently, some people that work at Sweet Baby Inc. were also responsible from some DDoS attacks to a certain website during Gamergate. Of course, confirmed by Zoe Quinn herself, and we know how well that goes. But we'll have to see how things evolve from here. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this. and I'll see you in the next one.